Hello, welcome to this video on Johansson reading number 18. I will bring up the text for you. Here we are. You'll see that in the Johansson book, it's given as one block of text. Just for ease of reading, I've divided it into paragraphs, and it's not quite as daunting as it might look, because these are all parallel sentences, developing an idea one by one and essentially using the same structure. So I'll read the entire thing through and then we'll analyze it. And as well as the Johansson translation of this passage, you can also find the translation by Bhikkhu Bodhi at page 1340, paragraph 2.2 of his translation of the Anguttara Nikaya. Here we go then. Silavato bhikkhave sila sampannassa nachetanaya karniyam avippatisaro me upajjatuti dhammata esa bhikkhave yang silavato sila sampannassa avippatisaro upajjati. Avippatisarissa bhikkhave nachetanaya karniyam pamojjam me upajjatuti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam avippatisarissa pamojjam jayati. Pamuditassa bhikkhave nachetanaya karaniyam piti me uppajjatuti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam pamuditassa piti uppajjati. Piti manassa bhikkhave nachetanaya karaniyam kayo me pasambhatuti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam piti manassa kayo pasambhati. Pasaddhakayassa bhikkhave nachetanaya karaniyam sukham vediyamiti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam pasaddhakayo sukham vediyati. Sukhino bhikkhave nachetanaya karaniyam chittam me samadhyatuti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam sukhino chittam samadhyati. Samahitassa bhikkhave nachetanaya karaniyam yatha bhutam janami passamiti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam samahito yatha bhutam janati passati. Yatha bhutam bhikkhave janato passato nachetanaya karaniyam nibbindami virajjamiti dhammata esa bhikkhave yam yatha bhutam janam passam nibbindati virajjati. Sorry, I'm reading from my hard copy. I forgot to scroll for you. Nibbindassa or nibbindassa, but nibbindassa bhikkhave virattassa nachetanaya karaniyam vimuttinyana tassanam sachikharumiti dhammata esa bhikkhave yan nibbinno virato vimuttinyana tassanam sachikaroti. So let us now analyze this. As you will probably have seen by now, each of these sentences essentially follows the same structure. So, silavato. I hope you've all got it by now, that this vato, silavant or silavat, genitive silavato. In case you haven't, I'm just going to call up my study resources sheet. This is my study resources sheet. This is the latest edition, but it has been this particular thing I'm going to show you now has been up here for quite a while. And scroll down to, see, Sanskrit grammar and Pali grammar lessons and note, page 20. I'm going to scroll down to page 20. And we're going to start off by looking at Macdonnell. This is the one we're looking at. It's 85-86. Just for ease of referencing, I'm indexing all the Pali grammar under the equivalent paragraph numbers in the Macdonnell book. And the thing we're looking at here, and then I've given references to other works as well. These references will grow as time goes on. So Macdonnell 85-86 stems in at, mat and vant, also mant, vant, ant. These are the present participle endings, and also the adjectival mat and vat endings, which decline in almost the same way with just one difference. Whereas the nominative singular of the stems in at is an or in Pali. In mat and vant, the nominative masculine singular is man and van with a long r in Sanskrit, and just ma and va in Pali. So we're going to look at the notes accompanying, so the videos are there about this particular form of the declension, but now we're going to look at my Google Drive, so notes accompanying the videos. Remember, it's 85-86. The comparative table, 85-86b, so we're going to go to the 85-86b, there it is, and I'm opening it up, and there we are. So I've used the paradigm of charan, going, and in the genitive, look at this, charata. So let me enlarge this for you. Can enlarge it? Come on, there's a way of enlarging it. Oops, sorry. There is a way of enlarging it. I haven't got it. Oh, there we are. Here we are. There we are. There we are. So, genitive in Sanskrit, charataha. Note that in the consonantal declension it's the same as the adjective. And as usually happens, if something ends in an ah with visarga in Sanskrit, it corresponds to an o in Pali. So charato. The adjectives mat, mant, vat, vant, meaning possessed of, having, decline in exactly the same way, and as I said a moment ago, with one exception, namely that instead of a short un, or just in Pali, in the masculine singular, it has a van, or man, gunavan, buddhiman, in Sanskrit, and then just a long a, gunava, buddhima, in Pali. So let me get this out of the way now, and back to our text. So here we are, sila, virtue, sila vant, it's a two-stem adjective, vat. So sila vato, of one who has virtue, sila virtue, sila vant, virtuous, sila vato, of the virtuous, also dative for the virtuous. Sila vato, sila sampannassa mean pretty much the same thing. Sila vat just means having virtue, virtuous. Sila sampannassa, if you're sampanna, so pad to go to sampanna, if you're sampanna, you've got there, you've acquired it, you've attained it. So sila sampannassa, of one who has attained virtue. There's some sampanna, there's the idea of not just you have it, the idea of an attainment. It suggests that some effort has been made to get there. So you're sila sampanna, You have acquired virtue. So for the virtuous, O monks, for one who has acquired virtue, nachetanaya karaniyam. Karaniyam is a future passive participle or a gerundive, meaning to be done. And it has several forms. You can have in Sanskrit kartavya, karya, or karaniya. And in Sanskrit it can be katabba. Sorry, in Pali it can be katabba, karya, or karaniya. Most common are katabba and karaniya. So it means needing to be done, from our root kri, karaniyam, to be done. In Latin, it would be agendum, and in the plural, agenda, which in modern English we pronounce agenda. An agendum, an agendum, is a thing that needs to be done, a task. So there is no, often just translate, a need, no need to do it. But the need for something, the need to do something, the thing that is to be done, is put in the instrumental in Pali. So this is the instrumental of chetana, from chit, the mind, the thinking mind. The chetana is the idea of a voluntary act of mind, a conscious decision that you're making, generally regarded, I don't want to tread too much onto doctrinal matters here, but generally regarded as the kind of thing that creates karma. You make a conscious decision, you know what you're doing, that is what I've decided to do, that's the chetana, I'm doing it. So there is no need for the chetana. So for the virtuous, for one who has acquired virtue, achieved virtue, nachetanaya karaniyam, there is no need for this, like a conscious volitional effort. Avipatisaro me upajatuti. The ti, unquote, and the force of that here is, and it's put in inverted commas here. See, the chetana is what chetana? The following chetana, quote, may non-remorse arise in me, unquote. That's the ti, the unquote. So there's no need, in ordinary colloquial English would say, for the virtuous person, there's no need to make the conscious effort not to have remorse arising in him. But you put that in, as it were, direct quotes in Sanskrit and Pali. There is no need to make the conscious effort, quote, may an absence of remorse arise for me or in me. So upajatu, as usual, this u, if this word were on its own, upajatu, it would end in a short u, but the u is lengthened because of the following ti, and that you'll find that regularly happening. I think it's an absolute rule, I think it's right to say in Pali, that wherever you get a word ending in a short vowel followed by ti, unquote, that vowel is lengthened. It doesn't have any grammatical force, it's a purely phonetical thing. And if that word were on its own, upajatu. Now, the indicative, it arises, upajati. Make an imperative of it, may it arise, let it arise, I want it to arise, upajatu. And we see that, for example, in the chant that we have, the war cry of the Buddhists, sabbe satta sukhita huntu. If you want to say all beings are happy, you would say sabbe satta sukhita hunti, the indicative, making a statement, hunti. Change that to a wish or a desire, an imperative, that becomes the final, it becomes u. Sabbe satta sukhita huntu. That's the same u here. By the way, this e to u only works in the third person singular and plural. So huti hutu, bhavati bhavatu, bhavanti bhavantu, and so on. So upajatu, upajatuti. So avipatisaro. sarati, to proceed, to go. Samsara, going round and round, proceeding round and round. Samsara suggests a series of revolutions, a series of circles. Patisaro, samsara is going round. Patisara is having to go back to somebody. Patisara, going back to him. So if you have wronged somebody, and this is a special rule, as I understand it, in the Vinaya, the Theravada monastic discipline, that the monk has to patisarati somebody, go back. If monk has wronged somebody, it's part of the discipline, has to actually go back to that person and ask for confess and ask for forgiveness for the wrong done. That's patisarati. And it makes it, you can add, or you do add, the prefix, verbal prefix vi, so it's a double prefix, viprati, which becomes vipati in Pali. Means vipatisara is the noun, meaning meaning having to peel yourself off from whatever else you were going to be doing. So that would be what I'm normally doing now. However, I could take myself away from it, vipatisaro, take myself away from that and go to the person I've wronged, because that is my primary duty now. So, and you negate that by avipatisaro, being free of the need to go back and ask and confess and ask for forgiveness from somebody that you've wronged. I mean, it can be translated as, how has Bhikkhu Bodhi translated it here? Yes, Bhikkhu Bodhi is translated as non-regret. And that is, that's how it's used. It's like an internal feeling. You're feeling of remorse or regret about what you've done. But it comes from the idea of having to go back to somebody to ask for forgiveness. But actually, no, I could be wrong about that. Maybe the even older meaning is your mind, patisarati. You've done something wrong, so your mind, the remorse in your mind, brings you back to it. That would make sense. So may my mind be such that I haven't got this patisaro, this mind being, I shouldn't have done that. I really regret. I feel bad that I did that. So avipatisaro. May I have a mind that does not have this regret or remorse in it. May it not arise in me. Avipatisaro me, so non-remorse, me to me, upajatu, may non-remorse arise in me. So dhammata esa bhikkhave. This is dhammata. It's the natural way of things. This, I think, brings us right back to the most ancient meaning of Dhamma. It's from the Sanskrit dharma, from the root dri, meaning to hold. And the idea is, again, it's like a stream of consciousness here, but the way I interpret this imagery, we have that the universe as we have it, we as we aren't just some amorphous, swirling, disordered mass. There is something that holds it together. There is a sense of order. Acts have consequences. Things can be done. Things have a structure. Things work in a certain way. They are held together, not just swirling like a mass of disorderly gas. That is the original meaning. Or I suggest we can allow this as the original meaning of dharma, the holding together of what would otherwise be a split up disorder going all over the place. So dhammata, then this dhamma is made into an abstract noun, or a further abstract noun, just like naturalness, the way things are, the dhammaness. It is dharmaness. Dharma-fullness, dhammata, just it's the way things are. It's the natural way of things. In other words, what he's saying is nachetanaya karaniyam. there's no need to make a particular effort to do something. Why? Because dhammataya, it's the natural way of things. It happens without you having to make a chetanaya, an effort of will. So dhammataya bhikkhave. Esa, by the way, is the feminine form. When you say it is the natural way of things, you say the natural way of things this, and put this in the same gender. So the matai sa, it is the natural way of things, bhikkhave. Yam, that. Silavato, sila sampannassa, avipatisaro, avipatisaro upajjati. Again, you've got that. It is the natural order of things that avipatisaro, non-regret, lack of remorse, upajjati, here's the indicative, here it was the imperative, upajjatu. It is the natural way of things that non-remorse arises for silavato, sila sampannassa. Now, the remainder of the sentences, we needn't go through them in the same detail because they all follow the same structure, step by step, one by one. So, sentence 2 now. Avipatisarissa bhikkhave na chetanaya karaniyam pamojam me upajjatuti. Dhammataya bhikkhave yam avipatisarissa pamojam jayati. So, the noun avipatisaro, lack of regret, might always call it a good conscience. So a person who is endowed with avipatisaro is an avipatisarin. In ending is my common example that we even use in English, a yoga and a yogin, with a yogi, because in Sanskrit and Pali the masculine singular in becomes, so nominative masculine singular in becomes yogi. So avipatisari, avipatisarin. But this can also be conjugated declined in Pali, but not in Sanskrit, as if it were not an in stem, but an I stem, in other words, a vowel stem. And I've made a note, I think, for you. You can look at Duracell 135 for the parallel forms. If this had been avipatisarino, equally correct. In fact, further down, you've got sukha, sukhino. This could equally correctly have been sukhissa, just as this could equally correctly have been avipatisarino. There's no difference in meaning at all. And just remember that the sukhina, sukhino, Pali is the only one correct in Sanskrit. This avipatisarissa would be regarded in Sanskrit as an anomaly, and it wouldn't be allowed. So for one who is without regret, bhikkhave na chetanaya karaniyam, there's no need to make a conscious mental effort. Pamojam me upajjatuti, may pamoja arise in me. So I had to pause there. I can't remember where I got there. I think I'd read up to pamoja me upajjatuti, dhammataya bhikkhave yam avipatisarissa pamojam jayati. So pamojam means something like joy. Let me give you my iPad. The root is mud. The idea is, happiness, joy. We get, mudita, often translated as sympathetic joy. And you can make it an intensive form, pramud. Now, this is one of those stems that in Sanskrit, one of those roots, I should say, roots that in Sanskrit you can make an adjective out of without changing it. So in fact the word pramud in Sanskrit means joyful. It's pramud. Pali, as we know, tends not to like words ending in consonants, so sometimes it just drops off the consonant, which would be pramu. That wouldn't be right because you'd lose an essential consonant of the root. So what does Pali do? It makes it pramuda. Sorry, pamuda. So instead of pramud, pamuda. Pamuda is an adjective meaning joyful. Now make this into an abstract noun by the usual vriddhi derivative. In Sanskrit, by vriddhi of the a, that would become pramudya. And in Pali, it has two forms in Pali. The less common one follows the Sanskrit. It's pamudja. More common, you change the u to o, not only the a to a, but the u to o. Pali sometimes does that. It has guna uvriddhi of two of the vowels, whereas Sanskrit would only do it with the first vowel. Sanskrit pramudya, not pramudya, you wouldn't do that. Pramudya, Pali pamudja, but also in Pali pamudja. So remember this pamudja comes back to pramudya, which comes back to pramud, from pramud, root mud. Incidentally, this root mud, the idea of joyfulness, it relates to the German Mut, M-U-T, and our word mood is from that same mud root. You mean a good mood or a bad mood, but in Sanskrit, Pali, the mud is always the idea of happiness and joy. So back to where we were. So pamojam, may upajatuti, may joyfulness arise in me. This may, by the way, it's an enclitic form, a shortened enclitic form. In other words, you can't begin a sentence with it or begin a word group. It can only be enclitic, attached onto the end, fastened to the end of a preceding word. So, joy to me, let it arise thus. Damatai sabikave. Yam avipatisarisya pamojam jayati. This jayati, it's from that root jan. The root jan. It is a little bit irregular. It is a class 4 in Sanskrit. It's a class 4 atmanepada verb. So that would normally be, and I'm putting an asterisk here to show you that I'm giving a form that does not exist. If it were regular, it would be class 4 adds a ya. It would be janyate, atmanepada te, janyate. In fact, it's slightly irregular, this verb, because the n drops out and the a lengthens. That's why you get jayate, is born. And of course in Pali that becomes a jayati, and that's where we have it here, jayati. Avipatisarisya pamojam jayati. So joy is born in, or joy arises in the person who is without regret. Next sentence. Pamuditassa bhikkave. By the way, pamodja is the abstract noun, and we've just seen pramud. So pramudita, you are joyed. It's the past participial form. Pramuditasya in Sanskrit. So pramuditassa is just the adjective, past participle form, adjective pramudita. Let me just get back to the. So pramud let's see, mudita, and in Pali, the same with the loss of the ra. Pamudita, joyed. So, pamuditassa bhikkhave na chetanaya karaniyam piti me upajjatuti. Dhammataya sa bhikkhave yam pamuditassa piti uppajjati. So the new word here is piti, often translated as rapture. We see the word used in the Satipatthana Sutta and so on in discussing the stages of meditation, that piti arises. This piti, a sense of joy, rapture. Sanskrit priti, piti, in Pali. Incidentally, the name of current Home Secretary, Priti Patel, it's that same word. It's actually cognate with our English, as in the word friend. It's the person who gives you joy, the person you're happy to be with. So, for one who feels joy, pamuditassa bhikkhave, it's a pamuditassa, it's dhammata, it's natural. For piti, yam piti uppajjati pamuditassa, that piti, this rapture, arises for one who is joyful. So, piti manassa bhikkhave na chetanaya karaniyam kayo me pasambhatuti dhammataya sa bhikkhave yam piti manassa kayo pasambhati. So, this piti manassa is let's look at this word, piti manassa. If you have a mind full of priti, in Sanskrit it would be priti manas, and this is a consonant stem, manas is a consonant stem, and if you wanted to put that into the genitive, that's the masculine singular genitive, it would be priti manasa. What's happened in Pali, manas is also a consonant stem, but usually pronounced mano. For example, for the accusative, it's not manena, but manasa. So it's manas, consonant stem, with a. As in verse 1 or verse 2 of the Dhammapada, manasa che paduktena basativa karotiva. If one speaks or acts paduktena manasa, with a mind full of anger, or a spoilt mind, pradushtena manasa in Sanskrit, pradushtena manasa, with a mind full of anger or hatred. But what happens in Pali, when this word manas comes at the end of a compound, meaning minded, one who's priti minded, one who has a mind full of piti, it becomes an ordinary declension. So that's why a person can be piti mano, and the genitive form of it is piti manasa, which would not be allowed in Sanskrit, but is okay in Pali. And that accounts for this form here, piti manasa, of one who has piti in their mind, piti minded. For the piti minded, O monks, na chetanaya karaniyam. There's no need to make a conscious effort. Kayo me pasambhatuti. May my body be calmed down. How does Bhikkhu Bodhi translate it? Is tranquil, yes. May my body be tranquil. So pasambhati, it is tranquil. So dhammata, sorry, esa bhikkhave, it is natural amongst yam piti manasa, that for one who has a piti mind, a mind full of piti rapture, kayo pasambhati, the body becomes tranquil. Now, pasambhati is the verb. The adjective using a past participle is pasaddha. Pasaddha gayasa is the compound adjective. Let's put a hyphen there. Pasaddha gayasa, for the tranquil bodied. Now this word, I've done a note on it. But I'll go through it with you on the iPad. The root is shramb. And the idea of that root is trust or confidence, originally in Sanskrit, the old Vedic, trust and confidence. And the idea of tranquility, you can see following from that, because if you trust your environment, you're confident in your environment and the people around you, you're not in danger, tranquility will arise. And it's usually used with a verbal prefix, of which a very common one is the pra. So pra, in Sanskrit, prashrambhati, just becomes tranquil. And in the past participle, the M drops out, so it's some prashrabdha. You will very often have seen, well, the where you get bh plus ta. So this, if the root ends in a bh and the past participle as normal begins or is ta, what happens is the b loses its aspiration, just becomes a b. The t becomes a d, and the loss of the aspiration of the b is compensated for by bd. That's why you get prashrabta becomes prashrabdha. We see it, for example, not quite so clearly, but in the root, because there's already a d there, the root bud. Bud plus ta. Bud, root meaning awaken, ta, awakened. So we don't say buddha, it becomes what? Buddha. Same phenomenon occurs. The first D loses its aspiration. The ta of the past participle then changes to a D, but becomes aspirated by way of compensation for loss of aspiration of the D of the root. So buddha, buddha. So the process whereby buddha becomes buddha is exactly the same as the process whereby prashrambhati, and of course in addition here we've got the loss of the nasal, the loss of the M. So prashrambhati becomes prashrabta, prashrabdha. And then in Pali, prashrabdha becomes, as usual, pasaddho. So prashrabdha, pasaddha. So here we are. So piti manasa bhikkhave in the chetanaya karaniyam kayo me pasambhatuti. Dhammatai sa bhikkhave yam piti manasa kayo, that the body of the piti minded, of the one whose mind is full of piti, pasambhati, becomes tranquil. Now pasambhati, now here we have the past participle we've just dealt with, pasaddha, in Sanskrit prashrabdha. This is a bahuvrihi, a possessive compound, one whose body is tranquil, and this is the genitive for a person whose body is tranquil, literally for a tranquil-bodied person. So pasadakayasa bhikkhave chetanaya karaniyam sukham vedyamiti. May I experience sukha. Dhammatayasa bhikkhave yam pasadakayo sukham vedyati. Vedyati, it's a slightly irregular form. You'd expect to see vedeti, from the vedana, to experience, and from the root vid, cognate with vision, and our English word wit, the combination of seeing and knowing. So he experienced vedyati, he experienced it. He has the vedana of sukham vedyati. Sukhino bhikkhave. Now remember, I told you earlier, this could equally be sukhissa, just as up here, vipatisarissa could have been a vipatisarino. So sukhino, which is the form closer to the Sanskrit, sukhino bhikkhave, of one who experiences sukha, nachetanaya karaniyam, chittam me samadhyatuti. So you know this verb already. Samadhi, the di to place, adhi, to place before, to gather in. Samadhyati, samadhi means gathering in. So may my mind be gathered in, may my mind be in samadhi. Chitta me samadhyatu. Chitta me samadhyati, my mind comes into samadhi, samadhyati. Samadhyatu, may it come into samadhi, may my mind be concentrated, one-pointed. Chitta me samadhyatuti. Dhammatayasa bhikkhave yam sukhino chittam samadhyati. Samahitassa bhikkhave. Third last now. Samahitassa bhikkhave na chetanaya karaniyam yatha bhutam janami pasamiti. Dhammatayasa bhikkhave yam samahito yatha bhutam janati passati. The root dha, which we find in samadhi, it makes its past participle in not dhata but hitta, so it's a little bit irregular. So samahita is simply the past participle of samadhyati, samadhi. Samahita is the adjectival form. So for the one who is concentrated, the samahitassa, O monks, nachetanaya karaniyam, yatha bhutam janami passamiti. How does Bhikkhu Bodhi, let me see and understand things as they are, yet knows and sees things as they really are. So yatha, as, and bhuta, the root bhu, to be, bhuta, what is, that which has come into being, what is, what really is. So yatha bhuta, normally used here, used as a neuter noun, things as they really are, but in the singular. Yatha bhutam, as it really is, as it is. Yatha bhutam janami passamiti. May I see things, may I janami, know, understand, passami, see, yatha bhutam, as things really are, as is. Now, note here that we've got these various verbs ending in ati, in the indicative as usual, and they make their imperative with an atu, which we discussed a moment ago. Sabbe sata sukhita huntu. In the first person, as for I, you don't have a separate imperative form. In Sanskrit you did. We'll touch on it briefly. So, Yathabhutam janami pasami, it looks like the indicative, as if he's making a statement. I know things, I do know things, I do see things as they really are. In fact, it's you can just tell by the structure of the sentence and by the sequence that it's an imperative. May I see things? Oops, sorry if I. Sorry, techno glitch. Are we over it? We are. So take the bhavati, imperative bhavatu, same in Sanskrit and Pali. I am, bhavami, same in Sanskrit and Pali. Sanskrit does have a first person imperative, like an order to address to oneself. May I be, I ought to be. And that is actually bhavani, with an N. And you find that in Sanskrit, but that has been lost in Pali. Maybe it never existed in Pali. I don't think it does in the literature that we have. So in Pali, it's just with the M, the same as in the indicative. So Pali does not distinguish between in the first person, between the indicative and the imperative, which Sanskrit does. So may I know, in Sanskrit, janani. I know is an indicative statement. Janami, may I know, janani. But that's why we have an pashyani, may I see. Pashyani, janani, pashyani. That's why we see in the Pali here, which has lost that distinguishing form, janami pasamiti. Dhammataye sa bhikkhave yam samahitu yatha bhutam janati passati. Yatha bhutam bhikkhave janato passato nachetanaya karaniyam nibbindami virajamiti. Dhammataye sa bhikkhave yam yatha bhutam janam passam nibbindati virajati. Now, we looked a while ago at the comparative table I did for the at and ant present participles. Janati, he knows. Janam, knowing, short form. Pali could also say jananto, passanto, but they're using the shorter forms that are closer to the Sanskrit, that reflect the Sanskrit. Janan, Pashyan with an N would be in Sanskrit. Janam with the anusvara. Passam, knowing, seeing, nominative singular, masculine. And they respectively make their genitives in janato, passato, of one who knows, of the knower. Passato, of the seeing, of the one who sees. So, for the person who knows and sees, janato passato yathabhutam, things that they really are, nachetanaya karaniyam, there's no need to make a conscious mental effort. Nibbindami virajamiti, may I be disenchanted, disgusted. How the does Bhikkhu Bodhi? Yeah, he says disenchanted and dispassionate. Dispassionate, yeah, not disgusted, that's better. Dispassionate. So, for the person who knows and sees yathabhutam as is, in other words, knows and sees things as they really are, nachetanaya karaniyam, there's no need to make this a deliberate effort. Nibbindami, may I become disenchanted. Virajamiti, may I become dispassionate. Dhammatai sabhikave yam yathabhutam janam passam nibindati virajati. So, if you are nibindati, I think I've done a note. Yes, I have, yeah. So you can read the note that I've done, but I'll explain it now. This vid is actually two separate roots. They were probably the same root at a much earlier stage, but even by Vedic times they've become separated into two different roots. And the one with the more common meaning that we all know is vid, as mean to know. But also it is, as differentiate into a separate root, it means to find, and in that sense it adds an N. So he finds is vindati. And by the way, it is no coincidence that vind and our modern English find, it's etymologically the same root. So if you put a nir, meaning away, out of, you nirvid, you can unfind it. You find it, you want it, you've got it, it's with you. Nirvid, you want to unfind it, you want to get rid of it. That's the way of saying getting rid of, to unfind it. You want nothing more to do with it. That is nirvid. And it's used in Sanskrit as in this meaning in a passive sense. So nirvidyate to be unfound. In other words, to be disenchanted with it. You want no more to do with it. And this is what it becomes nibindati. So it reverts back to the active form in Pali, nibindati, actually to unfind it. So, and just generally, it doesn't need to have a direct object, just nibindati, you are disenchanted, meaning disenchanted with the things of the senses. Virajati, again, I put a note, it's the last note in this section that I've done, last note under reading 18. There's the root Raj. It's a dual root, it's Raj or Ranj. And the original meaning of that root is color. And then by extension, you can be, it's an emotion. It possibly cognate with Latin rabia, rabid, English word rage. So the idea of a passion, you are red with rage. Also, if you're highly attracted to something, passionately want to get it, it's the imagery used in Sanskrit and Pali is that your mind has taken on the color of it. It's colored your mind. And if you make this anu accordingly, going along with it, so if you are the participle, make rakta, so you anurakta, your mind is, or you are anurakta, you're coloured along. And in Pali, anuratta, by normal phonetic mutation, anuratta, you're enamoured of something, you passionately want it. You're anuratta, coloured along, coloured in accordance with, or the idea of following. Your mind is coloured, following the thing that you want, anuratta. The opposite of that, as you'd expect, is with the verbal prefix vi, meaning separation. So virata, you are uncoloured. You have taken the colouring of your mind away from whatever it was that had coloured it to start with. this makes, so to become uncolored in Sanskrit would be virajyate, and in Pali, sorry, I've not been showing you my iPad all this time. Sorry about that. Nirvidyate. Rajan Ranj, we're doing. Anurakta, Anuratta. Virata, Virajyate. Virajyati. So, Dhammatai Sabhikave, it's the normal way of things, O monks, that the Janam Passam Yadhabhutam, the person who knows and sees Yadhabhutam as things are, Nibbindati Virajyati, becomes disenchanted, becomes dispassionate. He loses his rage, he becomes unraged with it. He loses the passion for it. The past participle, Nibbinna, Nirvindita, or Nirvinna in Sanskrit, Nibbinna in Pali. You can also have Nibbinda, Nirvinda in Pali. Either form is correct. These are given as alternative readings here from different texts. So for the one who has become dispassionate, one who's become disenchanted, and viratassa that we've just discussed, this so it's virajate viratta, for the one who has become disenchanted, of the disenchanted, of the dispassionate. Nachetanaya karaniyam, there's no need for the conscious effort. Vimuttijnana dastanam sachikaromiti, may I realize. Vimutti jnana dasanam, vimutti, liberation, in Sanskrit vimukti, jnana, knowledge, dasanam, darshanam in Sanskrit. So may I sachikaromi, may I personally realize the liberation, knowledge, seeing, which by in Bhikkhu Buddhist translations, the knowledge and vision of liberation. Dhammata isa bhikkave, it is the normal way of things, it's natural. Bhikkave, O monks. Yam nibinno virato, one who is disenchanted and who is dispassionate. Sachikaroti, realizes, sees for himself. Vimutti jnana dasanam, has for himself the vision of vimutti and jnana, here meaning realization. I just want to look at this Sachikaroti. I've done a note on it. Akshi is the Sanskrit form, the Sanskrit word meaning I. And in its combining form, it makes aksha. So saksha, which is sa plus aksha, with the eye, seeing, sa aksha, with eye. But it's used in Sanskrit only in the adverbial form. Sorry, get the iPad back again. Akshi, sa aksha, saksha, with the eye. It's used in Sanskrit only in the ablative sakshat, and that is in an adverbial sense, with the eye. And then it's as if, and usually figurative, sakshat pashyami, it's as if I can see it right in front of my eyes. What a wonderful description you're giving. As if I can see it in front of me. Or I'm so terrified of something as if I can see it happening in front of me, sakshat. From that, so sakshat karoti is to make embodied in front of you, to make visible in front of you. Sakshat, as if before your eyes, karoti, he makes. And that makes the, so sakshat karoti, visible to one's own eyes, he makes. So he embodies it, and then means he realizes it. The idea here being not that he's been told about it by somebody else, but he's realized it for himself. And the noun, therefore, the compound noun, is sakshat kriya, karoti kriya. And kriya just means making. And this becomes in Pali sachi karoti, with the eyes he makes, makes it as if it's in front of his own eyes. And the realization or personal realization from sakshat kriya in Sanskrit becomes sachi kiriya in Pali. So seeing as visibly present, realizing it for yourself. Go back to where we are now. So Dhammataisa bhikkhave, it is the normal way of things, it's natural, O monks, yam, that nibbino, one who is disenchanted, viratto, one who is dispassionate, sachikaroti, realizes, sees for himself, vimuttinyana dassanam, the vision of liberation and knowledge. So there we are. That is it for reading number, I forgot which reading number, for reading number 18.